Today, we're diving into a fascinating paradox. What if a flaw, a literal glitch in our immune system, is actually one of our most powerful weapons against cancer? It's a discovery that's turning a lot of what we thought we knew completely on its head.
I mean, that sounds totally wrong, doesn't it? We've always been taught that a perfectly functioning immune system is the ultimate goal. But what if some of its imperfections, these little genetic quirks, are actually a hidden superpower? That is the wild, counterintuitive question we're going to unpack right now. So, to understand how researchers crack this case, we first have to look at a really powerful but also really unpredictable cancer treatment that's right at the center of this whole story. The patients in this study were all fighting something called myelodysplastic syndrome, or MDS. And this is a tough one. It's a type of blood cancer where your bone marrow, the factory that makes all your blood cells, it stops working right. For a lot of people, it's a direct path to a much more aggressive form of leukemia. So the stakes here are incredibly high.
For these patients, the best shot at a cure is what's called an allogeneic stem cell transplant. And you can think of it like a complete system reboot for your body. First, doctors use chemo to completely wipe out the patient's diseased bone marrow. Then, they bring in healthy new stem cells from a donor. And if everything goes according to plan, these new cells build a brand new cancer-fighting immune system from scratch. It's pretty amazing stuff.
But here's the puzzle that was driving doctors crazy for years. Even when they controlled for everything you could think of, the patient's age, the stage of the disease, even getting a perfectly matched donor, the results were just all over the map. Some patients did great, but others would relapse. It was obvious there was some hidden variable, some crucial piece of the puzzle that everyone was missing. And this mystery is exactly what pushed researchers to dig into the data from almost 500 of these transplant patients.
And the very first clue they found was a total shocker. It pointed to a really strange twist hiding in our own genetics.
So get this. The clue wasn't in the cancer cells themselves. No, it was hiding in the patient's own DNA. Specifically, researchers started focusing on a set of genes called the human leukocyte antigen system, or HLA for short. Okay, so the HLA system is basically your body's personal security team. It's constantly going around checking the molecular ID cards on every single one of your cells. If it sees a self-ID, it's like, all right, you're cool, move along. But if it spots a foreign ID from a virus or a messed up ID from a cancer cell, it sounds all the alarms and launches an attack. It's absolutely critical. And this is where things get really weird. For a long time, scientists have known that certain little variations in these HLA genes are linked to autoimmune diseases. They basically make the immune system a little trigger-happy, so it accidentally attacks the body's own healthy cells. But in this study, having those exact same autoimmune-linked genes was actually a good thing. It was linked to a better chance of survival after the transplant.
And we're not talking about a small effect here. The data was crystal clear. Patients with these specific autoimmune-linked genes had a staggering 34% lower risk of their cancer coming back. I mean, just think about that. A genetic tendency for autoimmunity was somehow protecting them from cancer. That's our first huge clue.
Okay, so that was clue number one. The second clue has to do with how cancer plays a clever game of hide-and-seek with our immune system.
You see, a patient's own immune system can get exhausted after fighting cancer for a long, long time. But a brand new immune system from a donor? Well, that's a whole different story. It comes in with a fresh set of eyes, totally ready to spot the enemy.
This all comes down to something called neoantigens. The best way to think about these are as little unique flags that cancer cells wave because of their genetic mutations. They're basically tiny signposts that just scream, hey, I'm not normal over here. A healthy immune system can be trained to see these flags and go in and destroy those cancer cells.
So here's the crucial part. The patient's original immune system has been in this fight for a while. It might have gotten used to the cancer's disguises, almost becoming blind to those little flags. But the donor's immune system? It shows up, sees these flags for the very first time, and immediately recognizes them as a brand new threat, launching this fresh, powerful attack that the old system just couldn't muster anymore.
The research paper puts it perfectly. It says that bringing in a new set of HLA genes from a donor presents a novel immune challenge to the tumor. It's like the cancer finally figured out how to beat one team's defense, only to have a completely new team with a totally different playbook suddenly take the field.
All right, so these two clues, the autoimmune genes and the new set of eyes, they're both really interesting on their own. But the real aha moment, the big breakthrough, came when the researchers looked at them together.
They started to wonder, what if it's not just one clue or the other? What happens in a patient who has both the autoimmune genes and another really critical factor that often comes along with the transplant process?
And that third factor is a well-known complication called chronic graft versus host disease, or CGVHD. This is what happens when the new donor immune system is a little too aggressive and starts attacking the patient's healthy tissues. Now, it's definitely risky, but it has this known silver lining, a powerful anti-cancer effect that doctors call graft versus leukemia. It really is a double-edged sword.
Just take a look at this chart because it tells the whole story. As you can see, just having the autoimmune-linked gene on its own gives patients a clear protective benefit. And hey, the same thing is true for patients who develop CGVHD. Both are good things on their own, but the real magic happens when you put them together.
And there it is. Just look at that last bar. When a patient has both the autoimmune-linked genes and develops CGVHD, the protective effect isn't just added together, it's multiplied, it's amplified. This incredible combination created a supercharged anti-cancer state that gave these patients the absolute best chance of survival. It's almost like the autoimmune genes put the cancer-fighting power of CGVHD into overdrive.
So this is way more than just a cool scientific finding, right? This has huge implications for how we might treat cancer patients in the real world, starting, well, now.
For decades, the entire goal in transplants has been to find the perfect match to try and minimize complications like graft versus host disease. But this research basically suggests we need to completely rethink that strategy. Maybe a perfect match isn't always the best match. Doctors might actually start looking for donors who have these beneficial autoimmune genes. Suddenly, certain mismatches that we used to think were risky might actually be exactly what you want. This opens the door to a whole new era of personalized medicine, where we're not just replacing an immune system, we're strategically upgrading it.
Which really just leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. It's a total paradigm shift. A system that's a little bit prone to attacking itself might be the very same system that's the absolute best at destroying cancer. It just goes to show we still have so much more to learn about the beautiful, complex, and often paradoxical way our own bodies work.